Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's assembly. And although we normally welcome you as a collective, as a school, to our school assemblies, this time I'd like to invite you to this assembly and welcome you to this assembly as individuals, as unique, separate people. Each of you sitting at your desk, in your tutor room, in your particular part of the school, are unique and individual, and that's what this morning's assembly is going to be about. And I want to congratulate you on that uniqueness and that individuality, and I want to celebrate it this morning. And you might think that that is a strange thing to congratulate you about and celebrate. You might think there's nothing particularly special about being you. You didn't have to put any effort into being you. You were born, you grew up, you reached your current age, year 7 or year 8 or year 9, and that's the end of the story. But I want to look at that this morning because I think that when we break it down, there's something really quite extraordinary about the fact that you are you, something almost impossible about it, in fact. Let's start with the probability that your parents ever met in the first place, which of course is a prerequisite and a necessity for you to be born as you. What are the odds that out of all of the people in the world they could have met, that your mother and father met each other? Well, according to this study, those chances are estimated as about 1 in 20,000. Over the relevant part of your father's lifetime, he could have met about 200 million women. In fact, he probably ended up meeting about 10,000, and one of those was your mother. And that gives about a 1 in 20,000 chance that they were ever going to meet. But that wasn't all that had to happen. After they met, they had to meet, they had to develop a relationship, and that relationship had to ultimately lead to children. And the chances of that happening are estimated at about 1 in 2,000. So already at this point, from the 1 in 20,000 chances of them meeting, and then the 1 in 2,000 chances of that meeting leading to you, the odds are somewhere in the region of 1 in 40 million that you would be here, and that you would be here as you, as yourself, exactly as you are. But even that actually doesn't cover the whole story. Because for you to be you, it wasn't just enough that your mother and your father had a baby. It needed to be a very specific baby that could only have come about because of one specific egg being fertilized by one specific sperm. And if we estimate that your mother in her ovaries may have had about 100,000 eggs in total, and if we estimate that your father might make about 4 trillion sperm over the course of his lifetime, we could then estimate the extraordinary odds of about 1 in 400 quadrillion, about that chance that you would be born exactly as you were. Because if it was any different egg or any different sperm, you might have been a completely different person. Probably similar, but not you exactly as you are. But it doesn't even end there, because it wasn't just enough for that one specific egg to be fertilized by that one specific sperm. Every single one of your ancestors, going back through your grandparents to your great-grandparents and generation beyond that, back through ultimately Homo sapiens, back through Homo erectus, all the way back ultimately to the very first single-celled organism, had to happen exactly as they happened. Each individual ancestor had to meet each individual ancestor, a chain going back ultimately approximately 4 billion years. And by the time we start looking at the odds of that happening, they're so extraordinarily huge that they're almost inexpressible. The estimate here is about a 1 in 10 to the power of 45,000 chance of you ultimately being born the way that you were. And then through some further science that I barely even understand myself, those odds go even more remote, even longer, to 1 in 10 to the power of 2,640,000. In other words, it's practically impossible. It's all but impossible that you were born as you are. that chain of events happened that brought about you being born exactly in the way that you are, was so improbable that we could essentially consider it a miracle that it ever happened in the first place. What an incredible thought. And it's so important, given how unique you are and what an extraordinary miracle it was that you came about to be the way that you are. It's so important that we celebrate that individuality and that uniqueness. Earlier in the year, in part of tutor time, we asked you to think about who you are and to think about all of the characteristics that make you different and make you special. Because we wanted you to recognize those and we wanted you to share what made you unique. And we wanted to celebrate that. But so often in schools, it can feel difficult, can't it, to celebrate your uniqueness. As soon as you walk through the door at our school, you're expected to wear a uniform. And often in the playground, I will have debates with students about this who will ask me why they have to wear a uniform when it's such a crushing blow to their individuality. It stops you from dressing the way that you want, expressing yourself through the way that you dress and the way that you look. And I accept that that's a drawback of uniform. Obviously, at our school, we consider that it's ultimately, on balance, a good thing to wear uniform. We think it's important because it allows us to maintain high expectations of our appearance and how we look. It means that we can prevent bullying or anyone being picked on for the way that they dress or the clothes that they have. And it means that we can keep consistent expectations for everyone. And of course, even as staff, we have a dress code ourselves. We're expected to dress smartly and to dress a certain way. But for all of those benefits of uniform, it can make it more challenging, can't it, to stand out and kind of assert your own individuality. Peer pressure is another thing that makes that incredibly hard. It can be really, really difficult to speak out sometimes about how we feel, to be honest about our views or opinions, or to want to behave the way that we really want to behave, or to say the things that we really want to say, because we're so worried about what others will say, how we might be viewed by others. Will we be laughed at for our opinions or for our passions? Will we be made fun of? We obviously are really, really keen to eliminate any kind of element of peer pressure at our school. We never want anyone to feel like they can't express themselves and be the person that they want to be. But it's always a challenge to feel free to completely express yourself honestly when you're worried about how other people might perceive you or what other people might think. And sometimes in our classrooms at Haverstock, I think that means that not all of us always feel open to expressing our views. We might not always engage in class discussion as enthusiastically as we could. We might be a little bit more reluctant to answer a question or express our opinion or to talk really passionately about the things that interest us, because we might feel like it's going to make us stand out from our peers. We might feel like it's going to make us open for laughter or open to feeling isolated or marginalized. We might not think that it's the norm to talk really passionately and enthusiastically in our classrooms. And we might not feel confident or comfortable in doing that. And that would be an enormous shame. This all leads me to one of our key principles, one of our ways of spending your time at school that we're so keen to impress upon you, and that's that we should at all times try our best to step forward. We have at the school currently, and it says on the website, in fact, 50 co-curricular activities, but for the purposes of this assembly, I did a bit of research with Ms. Keogh and found out that we now have 63 co-curricular clubs available. We have such an incredible offer, such an array of activities through which you can find yourself and find who you are. Those clubs are an opportunity for you to find what really it is that you enjoy, to find what you feel passionate about outside of the classroom, and to pursue that. And participating in that co-curriculum and in those clubs is one of the key ways that you can be yourself, that you can express yourself, that you can feel you're pursuing something that you're passionate about. And I would urge you to think about getting involved in one of those clubs if it's something that you haven't done already. I also really want you to think carefully about the way that you are engaging with your lessons and to ask yourself whether you are expressing yourself in your lessons as freely and as confidently and as enthusiastically as you could be. There is such an opportunity given to you by your teachers to talk and to participate verbally. We ask you questions. We ask you to discuss things in pairs or in groups. We might set up think, pair, shares or other kind of discussion activities. And what your teachers are really so keen to see from you, and what we're so keen to see from you as leaders in the school, is that enthusiastic participation in class discussion. It's not just that it will make the lessons more interesting and more enjoyable, and it's not actually just that it will allow you to express yourself, which is such a great thing to do, but it's that will really build your skill set for the future. When you go out into the world of work and you're expected to give presentations or you're expected to perform articulately in interviews, people in the future are going to be looking for people who are confident in expressing themselves and articulating their opinions. And the classroom is your opportunity to rehearse for that. So some key takeaways from this assembly today in terms of your uniqueness and in stepping forward into that uniqueness. I want you to speak up in your lessons, and I want you to be confident to give your unique opinion. Don't feel like you have to follow the opinions of others in the class. Don't feel like you always have to agree, even with your teacher. If you have an opinion which is important to you or which is powerful, then it's really important that you express it. I want you to join and participate in at least one of those co-curricular clubs. I want you to find something that you're passionate about and an activity through which you can really enjoy being you. Whatever it is that you as an individual enjoy, make sure that you are giving yourself the opportunity to do it. And every day when you come to school, whether it's the way that you participate in your lessons or the way that you express yourself with your friends or the activities that you choose to do, don't be afraid to be you. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Because what a terrible waste it would be of that miracle, that almost impossible event that we talked about, of you being born as you. What a waste it would be if you were so unique and yet then gave in to the idea that you have to be like everyone else to fit in.